All right. So when we're thinking about painting our cityscape that has the reflection in the water, one of the things I want to talk about today is how to put together the techniques we learned into our final painting. So I'm going to start out with a wash, which is a flat layer of color, and we're doing that by starting with our brush in our water, and then I'm going to add a wash area, maybe first to this area that is water reflecting the city. Now here's the trick. In the bottom, below my horizon line, I'm going to actually paint even over top of my reflected buildings because I want them to look like they are reflected in the water. They're not separate from the water. The water is creating a very blurry image of them. So I've got some water applied here. Maybe I'll just start with a really gentle wash of a very little bit of a blue color just to start distinguishing this from my area above ground. Watercolor is great because you can add color very, very, very gradually, and you can progressively build up your colors. You don't have to start out with the darkest, most saturated color right away. You can start slowly and then layer. And that way, even if you make a mistake, like I went above the horizon line a little bit here, I could use my technique of lifting while it's still wet to help me soak up that watercolor. Bam, it's like it was almost never there. I even went below so I can go back. Now I might add a wash to the sky. And one of the things I want to decide pretty early on in my painting process is thinking about what time of day it is. I think personally that sunset and sunrise are some of the most exciting times of day for our painting because of all of the different colors that you can see during a sunset and during a sunrise. Actually looking at photos of sunsets and sunrises to see what colors there are and where those colors appear in the sky can be a good idea as well. So maybe I'm going to start by adding some of a bright yellow color. I'm swirling gently in my water to pick it up. I'm using a larger sable brush, but you could also be using the smaller brush, and maybe I'm just going to layer some of this yellow in here. Now, if I want to have those same colors reflected in the ocean, which I do, I'm going to add smaller horizontal lines of the yellow in basically the same spots that I have it. It doesn't have to be as much, it can be less when it's in the water here, but I still want to add some of the same colors a little bit in about the same places so I can show that the ocean or the water is reflecting what's happening in the sky above. I'm going to keep adding different bits of color to my sky and adding a little bit at a time as a reflection. If I have white spaces right now, eventually I'll want to cover those up, but because we're working in really small layers, it's okay that it doesn't happen all at once. Maybe for fun I want to switch to using a smaller brush just to see what it's like when I'm applying paint with that. I find that some people have different preferences and really like to work with either the big brush or the small brush. So take some time to try it out, see what you like. You'll notice my paper is dried out here, so the edge is a little bit crisper. If I don't want that, if I want the colors to blend and bleed together, I can go back while it's still relatively wet with the brush that just has water on it and work on softening that edge. Quite a bit of red over here. The small brush might be good for the water because we can get little tiny horizontal lines that can start to look like ripples in the water. So a small brush is good for control and detail. The large brush is good for large areas. But again, different people have different preferences of what they like to work with. So I'm going to keep adding different paints on the top and the bottom. I like to work on both at the same time so I can get those same colors in the reflection. So we're thinking about what part of the picture we're working on and adding those same colors above and below the horizon line. Of course, if it's below in the water, it maybe doesn't have to be as much. Maybe it's going to be a little bit, just some little lines of those colors instead of a whole larger area of wash. But I do like to work on both at the same time, so my whole painting is getting completed a little bit at a time.